earth. Do you remember? Why have we taken birth? Do you remember?
Get out of the way and let God do its thing. And that's my talk. Thank you very much. We had Reverends Bonnie and Andy Anderson scheduled for today, and we had to reschedule them at the last minute. So we're doing music by CD today. So we're nicknaming today CD Sunday. And you can take that any way you want to. So we're living in the flow. This is our last in a series of 4 talks that are working with Chapter 7 of Emma Curtis Hopkins' Scientific Christian Mental Practice, in which we've been looking at the topic of the spring of life, or the water of life. And so we've kind of examined that and how to work with that. And so today we're talking about living in the flow. And Ernest Holmes starts off, the law flows through us. And if you're new here, when we say law, we simply mean the creative process, the how it works. We say that all is love and all is law. God is love, God is law. God is love. God is this infinite love. Pure, infinite love. Okay? Every mystic who's ever had an experience, a direct experience with God, and that includes people right in this room, has had an experience with that infinite love that does not have an agenda, does not care who you are, what you've done, what you haven't done, any of that stuff, is just absolutely fabulously over the top in love with you and everything. You know what I mean? Okay? So that's what God is, but God then also expresses that love through a process that we call the law of cause and effect, the law of as you sow, so do you reap. What you put out is what comes back to you. Not in a punitive way, but just as we open up, as if we're expressing love, there's more love. If we're holding back love, there's more holding back of love. So we're working with that flow. So when he talks about the law, it's that creative process, it's that how it works. The law flows through us because it flows through everything. This is the crux of the whole matter. Now, this is by the way, page 52, where he says, that's it. That's the whole teaching right there. Those of you who know the Science of Mind textbook, you know it goes on for another 500 pages after this. That's just explaining it. But the law flows through us because it flows through everything. This is the crux of the whole matter. The law must flow through us in order to manifest for us. Okay? So it's the invitation to be open to that flow. So we first of all become aware that there is a flow. There's an infinite presence of infinite potentiality. Infinite. Think about that. You can't. I can't either. But get close as we can. Infinite potentiality. How good is good? How much love can we open up to? How much life energy can we open up to? Okay? There is this flow. And because it is an intelligent flow, it has manifested itself as this visible universe in form. It has chosen itself as stars and planets and trees and grass and all this stuff, and finally evolves itself into a thinking beings called us, human beings, right? And whoever else is thinking on the planet. You know, Douglas Adams says, I think it's the mice that are the number one on the planet, and then the dolphins underneath that. If you ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, anybody besides me? Okay. The mice are actually the most important things on the planet. They run the planet. But those of us who think, those of us who are conscious, see, we're conscious. We get to play in that flow on a conscious by choice level. Rocks don't get to do that. The grass doesn't get to do that. But we do. We get to choose. We get to play with that flow and direct it how we want to. Okay? Because we are one of it, we are in the flow. We are the flow, and the flow goes through us all at the same time. There's no separation. We're in it, we are it, and it moves through us. Okay? What is it that's flowing? It's what Ernest calls the law, that creative process of the universe. We are constantly creating. The universe is constantly and continuously flowing through us. Let that in for a moment. The universe is constantly and continuously flowing through us. We can't stop it. We can only direct it. And that's the good news, bad news, isn't it? Because it is constantly moving into form and experience in our lives. And so if we don't like the way that it's moving into form and experience in our lives, we don't have a devil we can blame. We don't have somebody else we can blame. We got to kind of look in the mirror and say, you know what? If I'm directing this in my life, I must be engaged in creating this. Michael Beckwith says we can't hide our thoughts, they show up as our life. Our secret thoughts show up as our life. Okay? We're directing this flow. It is constantly and continuously flowing. Now think about that. Think about, Ernest Holmes uses the metaphor of an iron foundry, where the molten metal is constantly flowing, and we create the forms into which it flows. What kind of forms are we creating? Are we creating forms we love? Are we creating forms we can just get by with? Are we creating forms we really don't like? Okay? We can change that. We can change the form. That's the good news. Mary Morrissey says that where I place my I am begins to concretize, I don't know if that's really a word or not, but she uses it, concretize our results, our circumstances, and our situations. So if you think of it, if there's a constant flow, it begins to precipitate, it begins to move into form. Quantum physicists would say it moves from potential energy or wave energy into particle form as we direct it with our I am. Our I am is what I believe of myself. Our I am is the name of God. When Moses asked God, what is your name? God says, I am as I am. And guess what? You may think your name is Judy or Bill or Harry or whatever. Your real name is I am. Because your real name is God. Right? Okay. If you're not sure about that, turn to your neighbor and say your real name is I am. Your real name is God. You are that. Breathe that in. And so whether we're conscious or unconscious of that, whether we're conscious or unconscious, we're always directing that flow. We're always directing that energy. So what is my real I am? It shows up as my life, right? Here's the good news, which many of you know. It can be changed at any time. It can be changed by you. You got the control. You got the joystick in your hand, right? Okay? It can be changed by you. You don't have to wait for somebody else or something else. It can be changed by you at any time. And my favorite Ernest Holmes quote, I have several, but one of my most favorite Ernest Holmes quotes is, principle is not bound by precedent. In other words, what happened before does not have to continue to happen again. Okay? The flow is just constantly flowing. It doesn't care how you use it. Okay? Electricity is a great example of flow. Electricity flows, right? Okay? And so we plug something into an outlet where the electricity is flowing, and the electricity flows into that, and it doesn't care if it's a toaster or a hairdryer or a microwave oven. It doesn't sit there and say, well, I wanted to toast things. I want to toast the whole world and provide toast for the world. I don't want to dry hair. It doesn't do that, okay? And so the universal infinite energy doesn't care how you use it. It does not have an agenda. And it will become what you want it to become as you design it and declare it to be so. Take a breath. I know there's some people who don't like me to say that, but I'm going to just anyways. Breathe it in. Let it come. Let it settle. The objective mind alone, according to Ernest, the objective mind alone may consciously decide what is to happen. We decide from the objective mind. All subjective decisions are merely conclusions built on already accepted premises, ideas, or thought patterns. What he's saying here is that oftentimes we go on automatic pilot. We let our subconscious run our lives. It's just, I'm sorry, it's what we do. I do it, you do it, we all do it. Everything about our subconscious mind was once a choice. We let it in, we built a premise on it, and we turned it over to let it be run by a subconscious mind. And a lot of times we built those premises when we were real young and didn't know a whole lot and didn't have a great perspective on life. Okay? But we never went back and said, let me tweak that a little bit. I know I grew up thinking I'm not really good enough, and I need to be invisible in my life, and I should just keep my head down so that my parents don't take it off. But maybe that doesn't work anymore. Maybe I don't live in those circumstances anymore. Maybe I'm not that person anymore. I'm not this little kid. Okay? I get to be the powerful adult who says what I want in my life. All subjective decisions are merely conclusions built on already accepted premises, ideas, or thought patterns. The conscious mind may change these thought patterns and thereby cause a different flow of energy and intelligence towards the object of its desire. We can change. We can choose. Because the universe, well, watch this, because the universe is a flow, it's a constant flow, guess what? Life is always changing. It's never the same. Heraclitus figured this out back in about 450 BC. He said, no person ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. We can stand by the river and we can put our foot in, take it out, put it back in, and guess what? It's a different batch of water, right? And we are 30 seconds older. We're not the same. We've already had the experience of having our foot in that river, so it changes our perspective. Nothing in our life is ever the same. I saw one of those things on Facebook a couple days ago that came through that, gas. I remember when gas was 20 cents a gallon, and when they raised the minimum wage up to $1 and all this stuff. And it's like, that's nice. That was 60 years ago. Nothing is the same. Have you noticed? Back then, we thought making $10,000 a year was a good deal. Today, if I offered you $10,000 a year for just a normal job, you probably wouldn't take it. Yes? Okay, thank you. So we want things to be the same. Two of our biggest blockages to the flow are, the first one is wanting things to stay the same. I want it to stay the same. How many of you have heard people say that? I know you guys don't, but you've heard somebody say that somewhere near. I want it to stay the same as it used to be. Okay? It doesn't work. It does not work that way. Life is constantly evolving, constantly changing. Okay? Our mind likes sameness. There's a part of our mind that likes sameness. We like things to stay the same because we've got them figured out. It's safe. We don't have to recreate stuff anymore. Think about it. If you had to get in and figure out how to drive your car every single day, okay, would you enjoy that process? What's that movie, 50 First Dates? Where the person wakes up with, every day forgets who they are and like that. We don't want that life, okay? But our mind really likes everything to be the same because it's got it all figured out and it's got it all locked in and it knows exactly how life works and how I should behave in the world and how all that stuff is. Do I want to say this or not? Yes, I will. That's why people like the religions where you turn your life over to Jesus, because then you're done and you can just have the same life. You don't like it when you have to come to a church like this and it says, change your thinking, change your life. Not, the devil's going to get you or Jesus is going to get you. Does that make sense? Yes. We like it the same, it's safe, and frankly, sometimes, folks, we're just plain lazy. We don't want to do, this is the quote that I did from Raymond Charles Barker the other day. We don't want to do the hard mental work of doing what it takes to change our thinking and change and keep it changed and move it in the direction we want. So I'm guilty. Probably many people here are guilty. We want to live life and have fun and not make it that much work. But sometimes, you know what? It is that much work. The second thing is that we don't understand how the universe works. The other blockage. We don't understand how this universe is flowing. So if I've got water, a river flowing down, and I've got a house my house is up on the top of the hill, I can sit there and look at that river and say, I want you to go up to the top of that hill. But does water flow that way? By itself? No. Okay, I either have to do something to assist the water in flowing that way, build a pumping station, some piping to go up there, something like that. But I can sit there and go, God, make the water flow uphill. Please, I'm going to pray that water, I'm going to beg this water, please flow uphill. Is it going to do it? No, it doesn't do it. Okay? So we have to understand how the universe works. How does this flow work? The flow ain't going to change. It's not going to change. As our reading from Troward says, the infinite, where is that reading? Since the divine cannot change its inherent nature, it must operate in the same manner within me. Okay? God's not going to change. Got news for you. It's called the changeless. Now the form changes, the expression constantly changes, but it and how it works doesn't change. It is the changeless. So all we have to do, and the good news is, we get to figure it out. Think of a universe in which the law has changed all the time. Today gravity works, tomorrow it doesn't. Okay? What would that be like? I don't want to live in that one. So it's good that we have the changeless. All we have to do is work with it and come to understand how does this work. This is why we call ourselves religious scientists, as we get into that, how does it work and how can we work with it? Okay? So life is in constant flow and change. It's always seeking a higher expression of good, and it never stays the same. Okay. We get into trouble when we want life my way. I want that water to flow uphill my way. I don't want to have to work with how it flows. I want it to do it my way. We get to play consciously in the flow, but we have to understand and respect the flow. We have to understand it, and we have to respect. How is the universe really working? How is it really flowing? Am I in alignment with that? Do I take the time to sit and listen to what is coming through me that guides me in the process of that flow? That's why we take the time to get still, is to listen to that. What is the flow? What is it wanting to express through me? It's one of the great questions in visioning when we do that. What is the universe's highest idea? And another way of answering that is, what is the universe trying to birth through me in this area of my life? What is it trying to create through me? Do I take the time to listen to that? That's called being in the flow. That's dancing in the flow. The big indicator that tells us that we're not in the flow is the word should. Life should be this way. That person should act this way. I should act this way. Okay? When we're starting to, as it said, should all over ourselves, we're in trouble. We're not working with the flow of the universe. I want to give you an example of how this plays out. We recently had a survey done here from some members of the church. And what came out of that for some people, not everybody, but a few times, and this happens in all churches, by the way. It's a joke among ministers, or not a joke, but it's a joke. We laugh about it. It's called Church My Way. I want church my way. Okay? I want my favorite songs played all the time. I want the talk to be the way that I think it should be. Okay? Now, let me give you an idea of talk the way I think it should be. One person's idea is, should quote from the Bible every single Sunday. Theirs is, never quote from the Bible, always quote from Ernest Holmes. Another's is, never talk about that science of mind stuff. I want to hear from the Buddha and the Hindu tradition and stuff like over here. Another's is, I don't ever want to hear that Buddhist stuff and that Hindu. Okay, I want church my way. We do this. I want the music to be what I like. I like everything the way I like it. And I want the minister to behave the way I think he or she should. By the way, ministers do the same thing back. I want my congregation to act the way that I think they should act. I want them to give what I think they should give. I want them to do, volunteer where I think they should. We all get caught up in this game, right? And when we're in that game, we are not in the flow. When we're in that game, we're not in the flow. And the problem is that it's not just at church. How we do one thing is how we do everything, and so that shows up in our relationships around. You ever watch yourself with your partner sitting there going, well, I want my partner, she or he should do this. My children should act this way. My parents should act this way. My friends should act this way. My neighbors should act this way. My body should be this way. I don't like aging. Do you like aging, Harry? No. He's ahead of me on the curve. But we were talking, we both like to have the body that was back when we were about 26 years old and, having all the work. Not the mind, okay? We want the wisdom. I want his wisdom. But we all want the body. But it doesn't work that way, does it? It just doesn't. Okay? And so we start to flow with that. We start to work with that. We start to be aware of that. But when we're not, and we sit there and go do that should. My money should be this way. My job should be this way. The politics of the country should be this way. The whole world should be the way that I want it to be. When we're in that, we're in trouble. When we're in that, we're out of the flow. Better questions. What am I to learn from this? If I'm in a situation that I don't like, what am I to learn from this? The Buddhists have a practice of assuming that everyone else, walking around assuming everyone else is an enlightened Buddha with a lesson to teach us. How would you like to walk through the rest of your life knowing that everyone else is an enlightened Buddha with a message to teach us for our own enlightenment? That includes the person that, as what's the Dalai Lama call them? His sacred friends, our special sacred friends. I have my friends, I have my sacred friends. That's what the Dalai Lama says. His sacred friends are the Chinese government, the ones that kicked him out of Tibet and tortured his people. Okay? What if we could look at our sacred friends as just that, as people who helped us to guide, what we want, to guide us to a higher consciousness. Okay? What am I to learn from this? Let me learn why it is this way. It's this way, and oftentimes you just say, I don't like it that way. Maybe it's time to take a moment and find out and go ask somebody, why is it this way? Somebody who knows, by the way. Different than gossip. I don't like it that way. You know what they're doing? Okay. Okay. But no, ask, why is it this way? I'm just curious. I know it's working this way. Is there a reason? I'm sure there's a reason. There's always a reason. Why is it this way? Sometimes what happens is we learn. Sometimes what happens is the other person says, oh, it's like the woman who cut the ends off a ham before placing it in the baking pan, And when the husband finally asked, why do you do it this way? And she said, my mother did it this way. And when they finally asked the mother, she said, my mother did it that way. And when they finally asked the grandmother, she said, oh, because my pan was too small for the hams we had at the time. But the two daughters just kept on doing it, okay? And so maybe there's a process where the other person can learn something new. But it's better to ask questions. If I'm upset, what within me is upset? The Course in Miracles Course in Miracles says we're never upset for the reason we think we are. We're never upset for the reason we think we are. I saw somebody back there just kind of go, dang, isn't that, don't you hate that? I want to be upset. You made me upset. I know you did. It's your fault. Okay? But when we start to look and say, okay, so that person triggered me, that situation pushed my button, but what's behind the button? As a friend of mine said, I may have pushed your button, but I didn't install and maintain your button. Okay? Are we willing to let ourselves ask, what is it within me that's upset? And finally, what does my soul want in this situation? See, normally when we're into a should, it's our intellect, it's our ego, it's our limited self that's starting to view the world with that. When we start to ask the question, what does my soul want? What is my soul being called to in this situation? Again, it's taking that time, that moment to listen a little bit. Then we start to have better answers. We start to have higher quality answers. Okay? So this week we're going to have 3 opportunities to play with this stuff and practice. All right? So number 1, become aware of the flow. We talked about this flow, and many of you have experienced at some point a moment in your life where you've really kind of been out of time and space and you've experienced that flow happening, or you've just had an aha moment. What I invite you to do is become more aware. And that takes the time to observe, to look, to be aware of the flow that is actually happening, to open up to that flow, to notice it, to see, oh, there it is. There it is. See, it's everywhere. It's obvious. It's all over the place. But most of the time we're walking by in our busy day and our busy thoughts and our busy, texting and cell phoning and whatever. I'm so glad I never do that. The part I hate most about this being up here is I have to spend 25 minutes away from my cell phone. It's just really, no. We take the time away from doing that to just simply be observing. Let me notice the flow. It doesn't have to be anything big. It can be little stuff. It's in every detail of life. So become aware of the flow. Watch it in life around you. That's number 1. Number 2, become aware of where you're directing the flow. What is my I am moving into concrete form? Both consciously and subconsciously. Just notice. You know how you do that? You look at your life. My favorite question for the universe is, I know the universe always says yes, and if the universe always says yes and I'm in a mess, what did I just ask the universe to say yes to create that mess? Okay? I concretized it in some way. So just notice. And by the way, notice the good things. Notice the things that are working well in your life and the choices and the ways that you use your I am to concretize that. Okay? So just notice that process happening, both consciously and unconsciously. And then finally, take something in your life that you would like to shift. Okay? And play with directing the flow in the direction you want. If you like more love in your life, more health, more money, a more enjoyable job, more creativity, more wisdom, more whatever it is, pick something and start to play with directing the energy, this flow of the universe. We got this massive universal flow. Where do I want to send it? How do I want to direct it? I get to play with it. Where do I want to do? What do I want to do with it? What do I want to create with it? So am I working with the flow? So that's the 3 things I invite you to do this week. Number 1, become aware of the flow. Number 2, become aware of how I'm directing the flow. And number 3, consciously pick something and direct the flow in the direction that I want to go in that area. Can we do that? Yes. Okay. What I love it is if you play with this, come back and tell me the results you get. Share with me how this works out for you. Okay? I invite you to actually do it. This is the where the rubber meets the road part of it. We can know about things, but until we're demonstrating them in our lives, until they're actually showing up, we just know about them. And what I'm going to invite you to do is know this process. I use this in first service, my favorite Will Smith phrase, get jiggy with this process. Okay? Get involved with it. And let it become your process. And create a life that you love. However your life is now. However good your life is now. Because many of you live lives that are pretty darn good, right? Okay? However good it is now, it can get better. Do you know that? Okay? A friend of mine said, don't let good be the enemy of better. We're playing with the infinite potential of the universe. Would you like to play a little bigger? Would you like to have a little more love, no matter how much love you already have? I'm lovingly engaged, happily engaged with my beautiful fiancée over here, and I'd like us to have even more love. She would too. Okay? More money, more health, more vibrant aliveness, more joy flowing in our lives. So however much you have, open up to something more. Pick an area, go play with it, and have fun this week with that, all right? So I want to close with a quote from Ernest. And he's talking about the law of circulation here, and I want to just be careful because I know sometimes law of circulation is a code for give money. Okay? I'm not talking about that. I just want to be clear. Law of circulation works everywhere and everything constantly. If you're giving love, you're receiving love, all that stuff. Okay? So I just wanted to preface that in case a couple people hear it. When the law of circulation is retarded, stagnation results. It is only as we allow the divine current to flow through us on and out that we really express life. The law of giving and receiving is definite. So that's Ernest Holmes. I invite you this week to play with that law of giving and receiving, to play with that flow, to let it go, to let it flow in your life. Let's pray. So moving into that awareness that there is this infinite flow of absolute love, pure joy, bliss, in all of its forms, in all the ways that it takes form as this life. From the beauty of a sunrise or sunset, or a flowing mountain stream, to the beauty of love between two people, or between a whole nation of people and another nation of people, to the vibrant life energy that flows through all of us. This infinite presence is all there is, everywhere present, constantly flowing, constantly expressing itself, finding new and better ways to say, I am that I am. And we are one of it. Because that infinite is all there is, because it is everywhere present, there is nothing and nowhere that any can be outside of it. So we ourselves have to be one of that infinite presence. We are that infinite flow. We are that love individualized and expressing as us. And so I speak my word that we open the valve as fully as we can to that divine flow. We trust that flow. We recognize that that flow is always a flow for good. Greater and greater and greater expressions of good. We let go of our smallness. We let go of any doubt. We let go of any fear. We let that flow move into our lives, move through us into our lives. In the most beautiful, wonderful, and powerful ways possible, we say yes to it. And for this I am grateful. For each person who is saying yes, for each person who says, I am getting out of the way of that flow right now, I'm willing to I'm getting my smallness out of the way of the flow, and I'm willing to let that flow move into my life. I'm ever so grateful. For all the good that manifests as a result of that, I'm ever so grateful. And for the pure flow itself, the divine energy, the divine light, life, love, wholeness, beauty, wisdom, power of the Infinite One, I am ever so grateful. And so in gratitude, we release this word into a law that knows exactly how to move it into form and experience. We don't have to figure out how to let the flow through us. We just have to be willing and say yes. And so I know that as we do, it moves into form, it moves into experience in our own individual lives in the most beautiful, wonderful, joyous ways possible. And so it does, and so it is. Thank you.
To love, serve.